Brilliant. I think we're just about there. They're all coming in. Welcome. Welcome, everybody. Fantastic that you can join us this evening. And welcome to the 2022 Canoe Wales AGM and annual meeting. My name's Alistair Dixon. I'm CEO of Canoe Wales, and I'm just going to be running through some admin points before handing over to our chair, Kerry Chown, who's going to chair the meeting for us this evening. So yeah, just a few points from me. Firstly, hopefully everybody here has used Zoom before. I'm sure you have over lockdown and where else, but if you could just check that your name that's appearing at the bottom of your screen is correct. And if not, you should be able to just right click on the video of yourself and you'll get a menu that comes up and you'll be able to change your name. You may feel, if you're representing a club, to put your name, comma, and then put your club afterwards. That's just really helpful for questions, but also so other people on the call can see who's with us tonight. If possible, when we've got a couple of presentations and we've got quite a bit to go through tonight. So if you could stay on silent for the majority of it, we'll ask you, if you have asked a question and we'd like to verbalise that, we'll ask you to come off silent. We are going to be using the chat function, which again, hopefully everybody here has used. So feel free to ask anything within the chat. You can ask it with copying in everybody, or you can ask it directly to anybody else who's on the call just by changing the two box within the menu there. What we'll do with questions is, if there's a question that's relevant to a presentation, we'll ask that to the presenters straight after the presentation. If it's a question that's appropriate for a member of staff, we've got Paula who's monitoring the chat box, and she'll either send you the email address of the member of staff, or if they're here tonight, she may well connect you that way. But if it's a more general question for the board, then we'll make a note of it and we'll make sure that that's covered at the board Q&A at the end of the meeting this evening. If you've got any technology issues, we've also got Bonnie here this evening, who's on call and on hand to support you. Can't promise anything, but we'll do our best to support any technology issues. And the same goes, if you know of anybody that's struggling to get in, please let us know. And the final point from me is we are recording tonight's meeting, so just making sure everybody's clear of that. And yeah, that will be the entirety of the meeting. Brilliant. I'll hand over to Kerry.
Fantastic. Well, it's great to see so many people have given time to come to the AGM today. It's a brilliant attendance. We're really delighted to see you. So for those that haven't met me before, I'm Kerry Chown. I've been chair of Canoe Wales now for about 3 years, and it's one of chair's privileges to be able to chair the meeting today and follow through on the programme. So we've got a number of sessions, as Alistair mentioned, so this is a sort of a brief summary. So we're going to start off with a presentation looking at the environment, appreciating the environment in which we paddle. So our very own Mike Raine is going to cover that for us. Then we're going to go into the business of the AGM, the formalities, and we'll get through that as quick as we can because most of it's not very interesting. And then we've got another really good presentation from two of our colleagues from Llangollen Canoe Club. So they're talking on the subject of developing our club's activity to further engage underrepresented groups. So we'll welcome Hannah Vanier and Mark Owen then to do that for us. And finally, as Alistair suggested, we've got a Q&A session. So if you've got questions to raise with any of the board members, by all means, put them in the chat so we can cover those at the relevant time. So without further ado, we're going to welcome now Mike Raine to speak to us on appreciating the environment in which we paddle. And we look forward to hearing what he's got to say, and there'll be time afterwards for some questions. Thanks, and over to you, Mike.
Hello and good evening, everybody. Obviously just about to share my screen, which was all ready. Here we go. Sorry about that. Are we okay now? Can you see?
Yeah, we've got your PowerPoint there, Mike. Yeah, that's it. Perfect. There we go.
That's better, isn't it? Super. Okay, so hello everybody. My name is Mike Raine. I work as a trainer in the outdoors. A lot of folks around the environment, and a lot of work's been with mountain leaders, mountaineering instructors. This year I've been working with Snowdonia Society, the National Trust and National Park staff. And really it's about raising awareness of the environment. So with a few conversations we thought might be able to move things along with Canoe Wales. I think what struck me about this role was when I'm working on the hills, I'm constantly taking people to places that are quite degraded and of a high level of human impact, and a lot of change has been seen there. So to picture what some of the hills and valleys might look like, we often have to go into the gorges and the ravines to see what the British countryside, the Welsh countryside could look like if we just manage things slightly differently. And the other place we go paddling, apart from those pristine gorges and ravines, are the coast. And the coastal margin between the high tide and the low tide is one of the last wild places that we have. So we thought about all that, and we also noted that there's quite a lot of good campaigns going on in paddling, and there's obviously a lot of knowledgeable people out there, more knowledgeable than myself, if we're honest. But what we wanted to do is a way of pulling together some of that knowledge, pulling together some of that passion for the outdoors, and hopefully encouraging people to engage a little more in the campaigns that are already running. You know, the Check, Clean, Dry campaign, for one example, and there's several other things. So how do we do that? Well, probably the best quote is from David Attenborough, who said that no one will protect what they don't care about, and no one will care about what they've never experienced. So the more awareness are raising about how special the river valleys are and how special that coastal margin is, then hopefully that will encourage more people to naturally engage with the already good campaigns that are being run by Canoe Wales. So if we can inspire people about these special places by increasing the knowledge of those environments and improving the understanding, the hope is that there'll be more engagement with the care for these places. And it also links together things like, you know, collecting plastic, collecting rubbish. It just pulls together some of those strands to a bigger picture. And we do go to special places. This is where we'll often start a journey from, places like this. And these exist all around Wales, and we scurry into our boats and scurry off onto the sea, and within a pretty short amount of time we're somewhere like this, and we're the only people in this location, and it behoves us to know a little bit about these places and to care for them as best we possibly can. While you're here, you almost always come across this, and it does get a little bit relentless picking it up, but if we just sort of recharge some of those, pick up 3, 6, 12 pieces of plastic and do our best to combat that. But what I want to do is just open people's eyes up to why we're doing that and what else is in these places. So, you know, within a few yards of that photograph, we've also got this environment, which is really beautiful and really special. Some of it's edible, some of it has relatives in other places that we might be more familiar with. And one of these things has the largest penis in relation to its body size of any animal. So there's lots of interesting, exciting things to be seen. And we then get the Atlantic grey seals, which are a special feature of paddling around Wales, and they come up to us and they say hello to us. And sometimes we get confusing signals about we're supposed to paddle away, we're supposed to not paddle towards them, we shouldn't be in distance of taking photographs. So it's just getting to the bottom of all that. Anybody who's paddled around Puffin Island will know the seals come quite close to you, but then you'll go somewhere else and they'll keep their distance. So trying to understand behaviour of creatures like this will help us all. Sometimes they even pull out on your favourite beach. I should say this was taken with a telephoto lens. I wasn't standing where it looks. And it's to what degree we can manage that. And do we build into our day the fact that where we're stopping for lunch might actually have some seals on that might not welcome our presence in the area? But I think without understanding, we do quite quickly come up with unrealistic expectations. It's really hard to paddle past cormorants without them taking off. How far do you need to be away? 50 metres enough, 70 metres enough, 100 metres enough? So I'd really like to get under the skin of that one and see how far away we really need to be. And also how bad it is. You know, the cormorants stand there with the wings drying out because the wings aren't waterproof. So if they get too wet, they get waterlogged and they can't get out of the sea again. But I want a better understanding of that problem. And I think we can work together on that one, because those of you who do sea paddle will also say, well, you know, if I can't get in close and see things, then, you know, that's spoiling my day out and there's not much point doing it. So it's finding those balances through understanding of the environment that I'm really interested in. And every now and then we do get to see something special. I'm sure you can all see the puffin in the middle of the picture there. It stands out a mile. But how frustrating is it not being able to get any closer? Should we even be this close? Because you can see that's not taken with a zoom lens, that's taken with a camera. And the puffin came and landed next to me. So I snapped a little picture there. The rivers, valleys, just the same. This is the Avon Arturo in the Llangollen, just up from Llanbedr. A fantastic, special place that paddlers probably don't visit very often. But when we are there, it's a matter of just appreciating that these are really special places. This is the Celtic rainforest, temperate rainforest. There's only 1% of the planet that is suitable for Celtic rainforest. And these rainforests are characterized by having other plants growing on the trees. It's not a harmful relationship. These polybody ferns and mosses, and there are lichens as well, growing on these trees in complete harmony. And this picture is actually at the Twyren, which is a place many of you know extremely well. And that is very good example of some of this temperate rainforest, and lots of our rivers are in them, and they're globally special places. I don't expect every paddler to learn all the Latin names of the mosses. That really is challenging for anybody, but if we can just understand a little bit about how special they are. Some of them are quite rare and are restricted to these environments, so it's nice to understand at least their life cycle and just be as careful as we can when we're in their presence. Alder trees here, you may well be very familiar with beautiful, mature alder trees like we see here, but most people aren't. Most people don't see alder trees and they don't go into these places. So I just want to help people understand how special they are. These are birds that are very familiar to paddlers. What do you know about them? Do you know, do they migrate? Do they stay here? Do they go molt? Why do they go quiet at certain times of the year? How susceptible to disturbance are they? You know, I can remember paddling on the coast, paddling through wren territories, hearing the different wrens singing as we passed along the coast there. So a little bit about not necessarily rare species, but species that specialize in the same places that we do. And I'm hoping that by a greater understanding of the environment, that we might just encourage ourselves to engage a little more in the various campaigns that are going on at the moment. So I think that Attenborough quote's there again somewhere. Is it hidden under my, there we go. So really the most important thing I have to say is that no one will protect what they don't care about, and no one will care about what they've never experienced. Paddling takes place in extremely special environments, and I think it behoves us to know a little bit more about them. Thank you.
Brilliant. Thanks, Mike. That was fantastic. And I think it really demonstrates the increasing focus on the environment and on sustainability that absolutely came from members through the member roadshows. And Mike has been busy over the last few weeks setting up a plan for at least the next 12 months to start off with educating those that we influence, and then hopefully over time generating and training more educators that can then reach further out. But has anybody got any immediate questions for Mike or anything relating to the environment or sustainability?
Probably worth saying now, there's a couple of things I want to do. I certainly work with the coaches who are introducing people, but I'm also wanting to work with the clubs as well. So if any of the clubs are thinking that's something that we could do, then I'd love to come and do a workshop. You know, it's not a massively in-depth thing, but how do we learn more about the environment? How do we get to appreciate it more? So just trying to find ways of engaging. What I find is people do struggle typically with Latin names of mosses and lichens, but we all like a good story. So a good story about what older wood used to be used for, and which lichens were used for dyes and things. And if we accumulate a few stories, then I think that heightens our awareness. So if any of you have got ideas of how we can do that sort of work, particularly with your clubs or with groups of kayakers, then come to us and tell us what you want.
Brilliant. Fantastic. Oh, sorry, go on, Kerry.
Yeah, no, I was just going to say thanks very much, because that was really interesting. And obviously you've put a lot of time into that, Mike, and it was good to just reflect on how precious the natural environment is, and we've all got a responsibility to do our bit to protect it. So thanks very much for kicking off our meeting in that way, because that was a really good start. Thank you. Thanks. So having had a really good introduction to the meeting, we're now going into the formal element to it. So we'll try and make swift progress through some of the bits which are not so interesting. Starting off with apologies, we haven't had any, as far as I'm aware, unless anything's come in over the last half an hour or so. Brian?
Not as far as I'm aware, Kerry.
Fantastic. Okay, that's great. So the next thing we're going to cover is an update on where we are with board membership. So you'll see on the screen that we've got existing board members in the box on the left, and board members who were appointed during the year in the box on the right. Looking at those on the left, we've got two board members whose term of office is up for renewal, though they're both appointed. So we've got four people, Jet Moore, Rhys Green, Alan Binstead, Elsa Davis and Alan Davis, who were appointed during the year or aren't due for renewal at this point. So they'll just continue their term of office. And then we have myself and Andy Booth, whose term of office has expired, but we're both prepared to continue on. So we're not seeking re-election or reappointment to those two roles. And then finally, I just wanted to give a special thanks to David Wakelin. So David Wakelin has been on the board for an awful long time, and we have to thank him for the stupendous services given over that period of time. So the organisation's collected some or prepared some gifts for him, and you can see one of them on the screen. And I'd just like to thank, on behalf of all my colleagues and members, really thank David for all his contributions and support. So I wonder whether David might like to say a few words at this point.
Well, I'm sure everybody would be glad to know I haven't prepared anything, so you're not going to get a long speech or anything, but I just want to say what a tremendous privilege and honour it has been to serve on the board of Canoe Wales. I think the organisation's in a terrific place now, and it's, you know, it's well led and it has a good board, and I'm very comfortable stepping away at this time.
Brill, thank you very much, and obviously we'll stay in touch with David, and I'm sure he'll continue to have a role in one way or another. So that's
I'm not going anywhere.
No.
And there's also the gift that I think we've bought for David that should be with him. That
Brill.
Hopefully, you might be
there we are.
Yeah, go on, open it up.
Get it in focus. Hang on, let's change the view. Not blur me background. Oh, look at that.
There we are.
Look at this.
Excellent.
It's the best paddle I've ever had. And also a fantastic present, I guess, from board members, but that's a voucher to stay at Portmeirion for a couple of nights.
Excellent.
So I'm extremely grateful for that. Thank you very much.
Well, thank you, David, again, for all your hard work and for all the support you've given me when I took over as chair, because you'd been in that role for quite some time, and it was obviously invaluable getting your support and experience. So I'm sure you'll stay in touch, and we look forward to seeing you continue your involvement. And I know you're going to stay involved with Llangollen as well, because we appreciate your support there as well. So thanks very much, and you all join with me sort of thanking David for all his contributions. Oh, I don't know what happened then. So now we're going to go on to the recruitment process of our two new elected directors. So I just want to give you an update on what's happening with that. We've had 3 nominations to the board this year, and we have 2 vacancies. So we're going to ask each of the nominees to just tell us a little bit about themselves, and you'll see a slide coming up for each of those, which you can read, and they'll tell you a little bit more. But maybe we could ask each of the nominees just to take 30 seconds just to tell us why they put themselves forward for a role on the board, and that will help us to decide who we want to vote for when we get to that point. So after the meeting today, all the paperwork will be sent out to members for the election, and this will include bios of the 3 nominees and voting forms. So as I said, 3 nominees for 2 vacant places. In accordance with the articles, we have to allow 42 days for the election. The voting, therefore, will close on the 4th of January 2023, and the announcement of the appointments will be on the 11th of January. So if we could start with Tanya, perhaps Tanya, just like to tell us a little bit about why she decided to put a nomination forward. Thank you.
Thanks, Kerry. I'm not sure how to get myself up on the screen. Can you hear me okay?
I hear you fine, thank you.
That's good, okay. Hi, everybody. As you can see, I'm a very pink paddler. I'm an active paddler as much as I can. I live in Conway and was brought up in Conway. Started my life as a slalom paddler many years ago when I was still at school, and as an outward bound instructor, and then I joined the Royal Air Force as an administrative officer, and then on leaving there I joined Coleg Menai as a lecturer. I've since had to retire on ill health grounds, so I'm also a disabled paddler, and to keep me relatively sane and to keep me out of too much trouble and too much spending money on Amazon, I try and volunteer as much as I can, and particularly within the world of kayaking. So I am currently the chair and the team manager for the GB Freestyle kayaking team, and we had the World Championships this year and were very, very successful with 9 medals and 3 World Championships. I'm also involved in Canoe Wales at present as sitting on the subcommittee for the Talent and Performance group. I'm also involved in helping run various events around the UK, like Hurley Classic, British Champs, D-Fest, and so on. And I do a lot of paddling around Wales and elsewhere whenever I can. I'm just really keen to help out where I can, and think I can offer quite a lot to Canoe Wales, to the board. Being retired, I am available to work when to help out when needed. I don't have to juggle it around work commitments. So I think that adds, and I've also got the perspective of being a female paddler, a disabled paddler, a mum, a grandmum, and not very much a recreational paddler. I don't do the scary stuff.
Thanks, Tanya. That was really helpful, and you've obviously got lots of really valuable experience. So now we go on to Dave Cohn-Hollins, and obviously we can see there Dave's sort of bio, but perhaps Dave would like to tell us a little bit more of why he put his name forward to come on the board, so we can get a first-hand impression. Can you hear me, Dave?
No, maybe we should come back to Dave.
Okay.
And I know David is with his club, so might be struggling. He said he'd give us a wave from the clubhouse. He's double booked this evening, but I don't know if you can hear us, Dave. Or David's fine. See? No, I'm sure we can see.
Okay, so we're going to send all the paperwork out anyway after the meeting. So all 3 bios and the voting forms, you'll have all those. And as I mentioned, the closing date then will be on the 4th of January. And so we will announce then on the 11th who the new appointments will be. So I'm sure we'll all look forward to that. So now we're going to move on to some of the more administrative elements of the AGM. So if I could hand over to Alistair, he's going to talk to us about the minutes from last year and any matters arising that need to be raised.
Yeah, thanks, Kerry. So I'm just very quickly going to go through the minutes from last year. They've been up on the AGM webpage with all the other papers supporting tonight's AGM, so hopefully everybody's had a chance to see them. So I'm just very quickly going to go through. We obviously had a welcome by Kerry, apologies. We then had the presentation from Phil Scrowcroft from British Canoeing, talking about SUP and also entertaining us with some of his pictures fresh from Sardinia. That was amazing aqua water and really fantastic place to go paddling. We had 2 elected directors who were up for re-election, so we went through that process, and we also had Rhys Green, who was nominated as another elected member, so we had the voting for that. We then went into agreeing the minutes, the annual reports, which are summarised, and then into the finance reports, accepting the annual accounts, reappointment of AZET's audit services, and then we finished off with a presentation from Amlock Canoe Club with Phil Edwards talking about recovering from COVID and adapting to the new normal and some of the pressures that they had on the club and how they were going around managing that. And then we had questions and a Q&A at the end that again summarised there. So yeah, I think we can go to accepting, or if possible, those minutes. So yeah, I think, Kerry, if I pass back to you for the proposer and seconder.
Sure. So if I could have a proposer for to accept the minutes from last year. Tanya has proposed, and could we also have a seconder, please?
I think Bonnie's trying to say something.
Right, Bonnie? I can't hear anything. Oh, so we've got Karen Kinchy has seconded. So I think we're okay on the minutes. Bonnie, was there something we need to catch up on? Okay. So on to the chair's report then. So for those that don't know me very well, I'm a HR consultant in my day job, and I'm always really keen on encouraging my clients to be learning organisations. What I find is that organisations who continuously learn drive high performance and success for the organisation. And we know over the last 2 or 3 years, we've all had to learn a lot because COVID has taught us the need to be flexible and also taught us that doing things differently is okay. So a couple of things I'm going to talk about today, well, in fact, 3 areas are inclusivity, governance, and the importance of looking forward. So in terms of inclusivity, I can't say it today, it's really important to me and the board. So on the screen, you can see a picture of a number of young people enjoying a bit of competition. So young people obviously are the future of the sport, so we have to keep our focus on supporting them to compete if they're interested in that, but also to participate and have fun. And it's really important that we engage them and look at different ways of trying to do that. And as well as looking to encourage young people to enjoy our sport, we have during the last year had some amazing success on encouraging female participation. So we've had some great photos of she paddles events and seeing different people enjoy the whole experience of paddling for maybe the first time has been really great to see. So we had a significant she paddles event in North Wales, and this reflected a huge increase in women participating in the sport. I'm confident that we'll have even more success with the She Paddles programme during 2023, and I'm hoping to be there myself and get out on the water. So I've been promising for ages, and I think 2023 is when I've got to deliver. And as well as young people and women supporting the She Paddles programme, we also want to make sure that we deliver the right things for our established membership as well. So not taking anyone for granted really, but continuously looking for opportunities to do things better and meet our members' needs. So we note that participation in paddleboarding of its various types still doesn't reflect the Welsh population. So there's still lots to do to broaden opportunities. And as a board, we're committed to do that and to try and look at different opportunities and to think differently. The second area I wanted to cover was around governance. And during the year, we had a number of successes. So as Alistair mentioned just now, we were able to appoint some great new members to the board, which brings in fresh blood and passion, which is amazing. So we had Alan Davis, Rhys Green, Alan Binstead and Ruth Hall, who came on board as a co-opted member. All of these have already shown a huge amount of commitment to our sport. They bring experience and expertise to what we do, which we really appreciate. And more than anything, we're able to learn from a wider range of viewpoints and to benefit from a broader range of experience. And all these things help us to be the best we can be. Another area of learning came out of our green governance review from Sport Wales. As previously, we've been delighted to get such endorsement from Sport Wales, one of our funders. And one of the things that did happen during the year was an opportunity to have a review of our articles. They did need a bit of a review, so the timing was great. It's not particularly a fun thing to do, but it's important to keep things under review and to keep improving how we operate. We're thankful to Sport Wales for giving us some funding to do this. And that was really valuable, and we'll come back to that a little bit later on the programme this evening. So one of the other things around governance, during the year we reviewed our committee structure, and this year we have experienced some benefits from the new structure in that we've had some nominations from committees to join the board. So what we saw was that sort of filtering through, people, ordinary members maybe joining committees, getting some experience and then taking on board roles. And it's just building on that investment, which is really important. So we were delighted to see that those nominations come through. And it's an opportunity to build on the knowledge and experience of those on the committees and those with long-standing membership experience, so that we can all benefit on the board and have more shared decision making, and also more experience on different ways so we can operate and different ways we can provide a great service to our members. So good governance is critical to helping us be the best we can be. As an effective organisation, we can do more for the paddling community, and we just need to keep our commitment to doing that. So the final area I wanted to look at was looking to the future, or set for the future. So we've noticed some big change, and as mentioned earlier on, that we had someone speaking last year about SEP and the important role that's brought about to our sport. So stand up and sit on top paddleboarding have brought a new mass of people into the sport, as we know, and it's great to see that. It's brought some energy with it, which is really good. But it does place a huge responsibility on us at Canoe Wales to make sure we continue our commitment to providing sufficient guidance and training to protect those starting out, whether it's in SEP or other forms of the sport. So we never need to lose contact with that, because what we don't want is to have our sport sort of more strictly controlled than it needs to be. So making sure we provide that guidance to people who are joining the sport, whether it is SEP or sit on top paddleboarding or more traditional types, is really important for us to bear in mind. So we're really positive about the future, and it's good to sort of capitalise on all those opportunities. So thanks very much for listening, and I'm happy to take any questions if there are any.
Brilliant. Thanks, Kerry. I'm just looking to the team. I can't actually access I'll just stop sharing quickly, just see if there's any questions. Nothing come in. Brilliant. Shall I crack on, Kerry?
Yes, please.
Fantastic. So, I'll just share my screen. There we go. So I will carry on with the CEO's report and follow on from some of the things that Kerry has talked about, but talk in more detail around our functional areas and some of what has gone through from obviously March 2021 to March 2022. It's always quite challenging doing it this time of year, particularly after such a busy summer, because it's often have to go back and really think what happened before March. So I will touch on some of the stuff that we've done since then, because it's been, yeah, a really, really great summer and lots of activity. Thankfully, things getting back to normal. So just reflecting really, and some of the numbers, I did this last year, and just reflecting on some of the changes across these areas. We've seen a really significant change in the numbers of our personal members. This has actually gone up 2009 since the same time in March 2021. So a huge mass of new members coming in, and really, I suppose, supporting some of what Kerry said. I think just generally within paddle sports, we've seen a whole host of people come post-COVID, buying stand-up paddleboards or sit on tops and getting involved, which is really fantastic, and it's good to see people enjoying the environment. However, with that has become significant safety challenges and considerations, but also challenges around access. So that has been, I think, something that we've really been focused on. It has changed the way that we've done things. We are putting out more educational content, as an example, and trying linking people to traditional structures like clubs, but really fantastic to see that. The gender balance, it has pushed up another %, so female has gone up now to 36.5, which again is really great to see. That should actually say 63.5 on the other side, but it's really great to see increasing female participation. Then the number of clubs. So unfortunately, this has decreased. I think there's been a bit of a hangover post-COVID. It was 53 in March 2021, so we've dropped another few. I think generally with clubs, we are seeing a challenge with the onset of digital communication and WhatsApp groups and similar. So there's absolutely a place for clubs, but we are seeing more, particularly new paddlers, doing more kind of non-structured activity. So again, it's our task really to make sure they're linked on to traditional structures from clubs, not for their own benefit, so they get access to training, but also, of course, to the benefit of clubs. Then we've seen another percentage increase in the renewal rate for members, which is really pleasing, particularly when you consider the number of new members coming on. And then we've seen an uplift of almost 100 with She Paddles participants during the course of summer last year, which again is good to see. So then just taking each functional area in turn, just starting with development and participation. So a lot of our focus initially was supporting particularly clubs out of COVID-19. We worked in partnership with British Canoeing to run a series of webinars talking through a lot of really relevant content for clubs and supportive content that we're going to help clubs with things like volunteer engagement, but also running new activity, might be running more inclusive activity, and they've been really popular. We've also recorded, and it was great to work in partnership with British Canoeing on those. There was also quite a significant grant following COVID, which Sport Wales activated, the Be Active Wales Fund. Hopefully all clubs have applied for that. If you haven't, it's still open, and we can provide support with that. But clubs have been getting anything from £5,000 up to £30,000 of support through that grant. So really fantastic opportunity. And we were pleased during that period to see 18 clubs and totaling over £115,000 of funding, which is a significant sum. Then following COVID, it was really important for us, obviously, to meet and engage with as many clubs as possible. And we did that through online forums. We've also been, particularly more recently, out visiting clubs and understanding some of the challenges on the ground. What we have seen, of course, is volunteer recruitment, and the number of coaches and leaders has been a challenge, and I'll talk a bit about that later. Then She Paddles Cymru. So I think we took a fresh approach. We've got Lydia here on the call, who's been leading She Paddles and took over during this period. I think what we heard and what we saw is She Paddles was a slightly separate program. It was doing fantastic stuff, but it was probably more SUP, and it was, you know, some really good stuff happening. But what needed to happen was for that to get more integrated into more general paddling, and also those kind of crossovers into clubs and other structured activities. So that's absolutely been the strategic approach since, and again, we'll talk a bit more about that. But we've been really pleased to see the number of people coming forward for the ambassador roles, and those really important to us, alongside the volunteer teams that really make it happen. So since March, talking again to the volunteer challenges, we invested £10,000 of underspend into a fund, which we were pleased to see 18 clubs come forward for, who all managed to access grants of £555 to pay for experienced coaches, leaders, trainers to come into clubs and support volunteers to understand more about becoming a volunteer leader or volunteer coach, and the pathway to get there. So we've been really pleased to see that happening over the course of the summer. Kerry talked about the highly successful Sheep Adults Cymru Festival that happened in May. That was really fantastic event, lots of paddling activity, lots of fun, great band, and also, you know, gin tasting, you name it, lots of females coming together, having a fantastic time, and then, you know, transferring into clubs or into more activity that was happening elsewhere, and also setting the foundations for more event activity that occurred over the summer and since then. We also launched the Sheep Adults Cymru Champion Club initiative, and that was all about embedding some of that inclusive activity and ensuring that there was welcoming spaces for underrepresented groups like females within clubs. And we're going to hear more about from Llangollen Canoe Club, that one of our first Sheep Adults Cymru Champion clubs at the end of this AGM. And then, as I said, the development coaching team have been touring clubs, better understanding some of the challenges on the ground and making sure that they're linked with key club representatives. So then we move on to safeguarding equality. So Kath Sites was pretty new in March 2021. She's done an absolutely fantastic job, firstly getting a really strong handle on everything safeguarding. We've been reviewing our policies, we've been making sure that we're handling our cases in the most professional way, but also starting to get the education and training out there. So just this last weekend, Kath was with Jonathan at in North Wales at some of the kick-off camps for the squads, just ensuring that she was meeting with parents, meeting with paddlers, and that everybody understands what it is to be a safe environment, and, you know, some of the processes and procedures that safeguarding follows. So that really is the kind of strategy for engaging young people, and I've just given an example there within the performance program, but clearly that's happening everywhere within clubs or through coaching or wherever else. So we've absolutely been making sure that we're getting the message out there loud and clear. That's also been happening internally, so exactly the same with our committees, with our clubs, with the coaches, and with our board and with our staff. And our away day back in September, Kath ran a session so for us staff, so we really understand when we're working our different spheres of work what good safeguarding is all about. We've also relaunched, so post-COVID, the Young Volunteers programme, and we're starting to get that back up and going because we're really keen to ensure that young volunteers are rewarded, and young people within our sport see volunteering as absolutely an opportunity. And then I've touched on the workshops there. So we then go in coaching, leadership and safety. So back when I last gave this presentation, we were in the process, or during that period, we were in the process of putting together with British Canoeing a delivery partner scheme. So following March 2021, that was launched, and we're pleased to see 15 organisations signed up to the scheme within that initial 12 months. There's 3 ratings, there's gold, silver and bronze. Each come with different levels of promotion and different levels of support. So we're continuing to promote that scheme within all organisations, not just providers, but all organisations running coaching leadership activity. And that's absolutely something we intend to do more of going forward. A big part of during this period was also supporting partner organisations like providers and the more commercial side back into activity, and that was a big part, clearly with the 2 years break or intermittent activity. And then we've seen continual advancement, continual increase in new awards, and again reflecting some of those safety considerations. Some of the big ones have been new paddle and SUP Safer awards, so making sure that they have been promoted, that we have providers running those, they've all been orientated and running those awards in the best possible way. It has to be said that with coaching, leadership and safety, we are of course a delivery centre for British Canoeing awarding body qualifications awards here in Wales, and a lot of the work we do in this area is making sure that we're compliant. So every year we have an audit which takes huge amounts of preparation. and you know, a lot of the work just goes into that. And we also have the quality assurance and internal verification. So a lot of work managing the scheme, making sure we're compliant, and working with British Canoeing Awarding Body with all of that. So since March, one of our responses to the increase of the safety challenge was we launched a member safety engagement initiative. Hopefully everybody saw that, but I guess the big challenge that we had was trying to get the message out to people at paddle points new to the sport, and people instantly sort of lean towards signs or marketing or whatever, but that's all pretty challenging, takes a lot of time. So what we decided to do was actually use our members, because of course our members are out there at the paddle points. The majority were experienced, and we were also realizing that in many cases we were preaching to the converted, because you know, our members understood and do understand how to be safe on the water. So we thought, well, actually let's upskill them so they can speak to people and who are brand new, maybe taking their paddleboard out of the box or similar and going to launching from a beach for the first time. So we worked with the RNLI to devise the safety engagement initiative, and the RNLI have done a lot of support with their volunteers in similar ways. So we used some of their processes and procedures to upskill our members. We were pleased to see around 70 members come forward for the initial 2 meetings, and they've been upskilled and gone away over the course of the summer, and hopefully been engaging with lots of new paddlers and helping them be safe on the water. We've also been out and about promoting British Canoeing Awarding Body scheme through events and meeting with providers, meeting with clubs, understanding some of the challenges. There've also increasing changes with delivery centre compliance, which does mean a lot of admin in the background. And with the new awards and qualifications, there's all the recruitment orientations and setting those up, particularly for the next year. So that's been a big bulk of our work. Then we move on to places to paddle. So Phil, I think it's on the call, has been very busy implementing those disability pontoons and also washdown stations. That's been pretty challenging work, not an easy task, and we were pleased to see the Clympard pontoon recently finally installed, and that took some serious work from Phil to get done, but that's really fantastic that that's now in. And then the same with the washdown station. So again, linking back to Mike's talk, really important that we get those around. Part of our challenge is getting people to understand why they're important, but if they're not there, they're of course not going to get used. So yeah, we've been making sure at least the facilities are in there. Then increasing engagement. And we've seen a real shift post-COVID, which has been really welcomed. More engagement, particularly with fishery groups, which hasn't been the case before. And you know, we think that the environment is bringing the 2 groups together, which is really positive going forward. And then we've also been working on an academic project to evidence fish disturbance, and I think Tavy Murray's here, who's been really pulling that together, and that's been really, you know, welcome to us and important to us, and we're looking forward to seeing the findings of that. So yeah, since March I've talked about the disability pontoon at Clympard, but then also a big success this summer was the big paddle clean. So really pleased to see 32 clubs come forward, and we supported that again with some money from Underspend last year around with kits and promotion. So clubs were given kits, going out, doing local paddle cleans, lots of photos, lots of promotion, really great to see. We've also been working again in partnership with British Canoeing and the other national associations on the Paddlers Code. I'm pleased to see that's just been launched in the last month with some really great footage down in Clandissel, which again Phil's been working hard on. And then we've introduced Mike, so new environmental lead, really looking at environmental awareness and education through our network. So looking forward to Mike working broadly across all of our different stakeholders and groups. Then we move onto membership and communications. So clearly a big increase in members, which was really fantastic to see. But again, what we've been doing is really increasing the content and the communication, and that's come well, a number of forms, but I'm just going to touch on 2 here. So hopefully you've all seen the recent redevelopment of the newsletter, and we've moved to a more engaging newsletter with a mixture of different types of content. We've just at the initial stages been a huge amount of work moving across to another platform, but now we've got that in there. We're looking forward to building that and developing that over time. And then hopefully you've seen a lot more blogs and communications coming through the websites and news items, really, I suppose, communicating what we've been up to, but also putting useful content that, you know, members would like to read, or potentially new paddlers might be able to get more access, more education, more understanding of the environments they're paddling. And then, of course, we've been out and about. So we had our face-to-face roadshows. So in fact, the online roadshows in 2021, but then into 2022, the face-to-face roadshows, and it's really pleasing to see everybody at our 3 locations, Cardiff International Whitewater. Then we were up at Plaza Brennan, and then over in West Wales too. So that was really, really good to see everyone, and we'll be planning on doing the same next year. So since March, we've increased our communications and marketing team, and welcome Bonnie and Paula, who are both here on the call. They're both working across National Whitewater Centre and Canoe Wales, and that's really positive, bringing the 2 organisations together. We've talked about the increase in communications and also the increasing engagement. Hopefully everyone's seen that or noticed that. Then we move on to performance and talent pathway. So back when I spoke to you last time, we just completed a review of the performance programme. And I suppose the last or during this period, it's all about implementing the recommendations of that review. So we've implemented a new structure. That's regional development programmes at the sort of engagement end, then moving on to talent, and then moving on to performance. And with that, we've been welcoming new staff. So we've increased the resource in the south with Jim Pigden, and also new talent coaches, which has all been really positive. And then increasing sports science support. So we're increasing resource in all areas of sports science, but particularly within strength and conditioning. And then since March, we've really seen, I suppose, some fruits that our labour come through. So some really positive results, particularly at the bottom end where we've been focused most. So as an example, 52% of under 12 paddlers in the top 10 of UK rankings at one point were Welsh, and 38% of Div 3 to Div 2 promotions were Welsh paddlers. And when we think, I think it's about 7% of the population in the UK is Welsh. We're really, you know, batting well above our weight there. So that's really positive. And then you can see some of the higher end results. So Etty doing really fantastic at the more international events, and Megan and Etty both won team bronze medals at the K1 and under 23 events this year. And this year has been a really busy event for the whole performance programme, and really fantastic to see things back up to normal. We've also got new performance managers. So Nick Fowler-Rimmel joined us a couple of months ago, and he's very quickly been getting to grips with everything. Comes from a sprint background, but very quickly getting to grips with everything. Slalom, taking a very strategic approach, and we welcome him here on the call tonight. Then finally on to governance and financial sustainability. So just conscious Andy's going to cover quite a lot of the finances, and Kerry's covered quite a bit of the governance already. But I suppose we've covered the subcommittee, but as Kerry said, we have been working as broadly as possible through the sector. So I sit on something called a Water Sports Consortium in Wales, and we're trying to work more closely as a group of governing bodies with things like safety, with things like education. We also sit on a number of other safety related groups, and we've been, particularly with SUP governance, supporting both the funding agencies and the RNLI and other bodies to increase governance and safety around SUP. Brilliant. That's the end of my report.
Are there any questions?
Questions?
Hi. Can I make a comment?
Uh-huh.
I want to congratulate Canoe Wales with their support of surf kayaking. And we, as a country, we entered the World Championships, came fourth, and we've got at least one world champion in the country. So it was a lot of it was down to the finance support that they did to the development days. And I know we've got 30 plus surf kayakers in my area of South Wales, and they're all benefiting from getting together and getting some good coaching.
Excellent. Thank you very much for those comments. That's really encouraging. Any other questions for Alistair?
Could I ask what's driving the increase in membership? What field of paddle sport are most of the new members putting down as their main interest?
Yeah, so I think what's really driven it is a combination of factors. I mean, clearly post-lockdown, people weren't traveling abroad. They were also looking to get into the outdoors and, you know, enjoy the beautiful environment that most of us live near, and you know, places like Snowdonia, Brecon Beacons, also the coast. So I think that was part of it. The other part of it was more accessible forms of paddle sport. And we've talked a lot about SUP, but also sit and tops. And I think we have to recognise that that's opened paddling up to a number of different groups that perhaps wouldn't have accessed paddle sports otherwise. The other part of it is digital communications. We've talked a lot about our increase of digital communications engagement, but I think we have to recognise as well, British Canoeing have done a huge amount in this space, and a big website that has been developed is Go Paddling, and they've developed a huge amount of content really focused at, you know, this new audience that are coming in to paddling, and made sure that they are linked either to membership, linked to clubs, or linked to the coaching scheme. So we have benefited from that, and we've also taken a lot of inspiration from that and used that to generate our own content. So I think that's been another big part of it.
Okay, thank you.
Any other questions for Alistair? Okay, well, that was great. Thanks. It was a really good presentation, and it was good to see an overview of all the various areas, because a lot of things have moved on over the last year, and it was good to see. So thank you for that. We're now going to go on to the finance report. So if I could introduce you to Andy Booth, our finance director, who will talk you through the report. Thanks, Andy.
Okay, good evening, everybody. You'll note that the photograph they give me for my presentation has got the paddler going away as fast as he possibly can, rather than smiling at the camera. Yes, so here we go. The AGM presentation is based on the audited accounts for the year ended 31st of March 2022, and was signed off by Callum Ryan of Azets Audit Services. So I'll run through the schedules fairly quickly, so we can move back onto the interesting bits, as Kerry calls them. So turnover was a big increase for Canoe Wales year on year. You can see 114,000 additional. This is sort of rolling off the back of the COVID restrictions and the lockdown restrictions of the year before. So we were allowed to roll over £60,000 worth of grant from the year before, albeit offset by £45,000 that we did receive in 21, which was a resilience fund one-off payment, but that still gave us about an extra 20,000. Our coaching income increased significantly because we were able to carry out those activities again, which we hadn't done, so that was a 30,000 increase. We spent a bit more on our pontoon grant, and I'll come back to that a little bit more later. And the membership that Alistair's already mentioned, but gave us an additional £40,000 worth of income over the year before. So that you know, really helps in terms of us supporting those people. Cost of sales, £189,000, increased by £52,000 year on year. Again, cost of sales increase would be because we were carrying out activities and therefore incurring costs that we wouldn't have done during lockdown. But we managed to control our central admin costs to an increase of only 17,000, which, considering there was wage inflation included in that number, that means we have sort of tightened up the ship in that area. And the operating surplus for the year was 32.8 thousand before tax and £26,000 after tax, which still tops up the reserves for the organisation. But Alistair's also highlighted some of the areas we were able to spend in the current year from the surplus that we achieved in that year. So if you move to the next slide, Alistair. So these two pie charts show you the difference, the split of income year on year. So you can see grants are broadly in the same position. There was a small increase in grant year on year, but with the carryover grant I've shown as a separate element, which is that green sector there. So that would be a one-off carryover. Membership income, as you can see, has grown. It's now 16% of our total income. Again, thanks to the increase in membership. I think Alistair's already alluded to this, but the membership increase has been very much around leisure paddlers rather than, if you like, athletes and competitors. And so, we will be looking in future year budgets to make sure that we are reflecting that and trying to allocate some of the funds that we're getting there to help support people, trying to find, where to put on, where it's safe to take off, and, plenty of safety advice and encouraging other people to maybe take up membership just to get, the licenses, the insurance and everything else that come at tremendous good value. Coaching income has increased again because we've got the same, we are actually carrying out more activities, and we have spent a little bit more in the pontoon grant. Just to give you a bit of explanation to that, the pontoon grant was a one-off grant from Welsh Government, and it was to help us purchase and install accessible pontoons in a number of areas around Wales. These don't come cheap, they're all specially made, and those of you who are near some of the areas where we'll be able to install them will see them. Cosmoston Lakes comes to mind. Unfortunately, nobody's able to paddle on there at the moment, but in some areas it's been a fairly seamless installation. In other areas we've had to go through a bunch of council red tape to get these things installed, but I think we're nearing the end of that programme now, which was originally supposed to take 12 months, but with the intervention of COVID and some of the difficulties in actually spending the money and getting the councils to allow us to do it, we have been allowed to roll that forward into 2 years. But that element of expenditure was ring fenced just for these pontoons and cleaning stations. In terms of expenditure, you can see expenditure on performance and talent pathway, a slight increase, but a reduction in governance. So some of that is where we've allocated payroll costs, i.e. the people on the payroll, to the specific activities. So there's a bit of a movement between governance and performance there. And you can see there's a sorry, I just said that. Increased membership support. So you can see that we're actually spending more on membership. This is to reflect that we need to provide, more support through the website, through the newsletters and so on, to allow us to support the new members. And special projects, which is really around the pontoons as much as anything else, has reduced slightly. Next slide, please. So in terms of Canoe Wales Sales and Services, those of you that don't know, and I'm sure most of you do, but Canoe Wales Sales and Services really operates the National Whitewater Centre up in Bala, and is a wholly owned subsidiary of Canoe Wales. So there is only one share, and that belongs to Canoe Wales. So the mission there is to contribute to the governing body. you will see in 2021, you know, not surprisingly due to lockdown, we had a very poor year. Income was severely reduced and we suffered a £70,000 loss in that particular year. So what we had to do this year, because we had no idea what the 21-22 season looked like, is as a board we agreed to waive the management fee because we knew we had the rollover grant from Canoe Wales. But the good news is, as you can see, that in the year ending 31st of March, we had quite a remarkable turnaround. The performance through the summer, where, you know, the team had to work tremendously hard because we'd already cut down on the amount of people there anyway in anticipation of having to recover losses. But we had a quite remarkable August where we took 100% more than we would have done in a normal year, not in a COVID year, but actually in 2019. So we beat that by nearly 100%. So we had a huge benefit there in terms of the turnaround. So you can see we went from a 70,000 loss in 2021 to a £290,000 surplus in 2022. And even after tax, that still gives us £240,000 to make a contribution towards the reserves and the governing body. Next slide, please. So balance sheet, this is for sales and services. So it's really just to illustrate the benefit we got from the performance. So we went from reserves of, or net assets of £68,000 after taking a £70,000 loss in 2021, and that's turned around to a £313,000 surplus there. And next slide, if you then look at the impact on Canoe Wales, which is that very piece at the bottom there, but Canoe Wales with the £26,000 over 29,000 topped up the reserves slightly. So Canoe Wales has reserves of £149,000 at the moment, but when we add in the £300,000 from sales and services, we have a capital and reserves at the moment of £463,000, which is well in excess of our reserves target, which is just on the very bottom of the slide. So I don't know if we can scroll it on these, but anyway, it's about 250,000, I think. So we are now comfortably back in the black, if you like, and sales and services this year, well, we're back to what I would call a normal year. So, you know, we're not going to see another massive improvement like that, but it has put the whole business back at a level footing and ensured that both Canoe Wales and Canoe Wales Sales and Services have sufficient reserves to both manage the business and cover off any eventualities. As you know, I don't think any of us know what the next couple of years are going to look like in terms of inflation, taxes, etc. So a fairly comfortable position, I would say. If you just move to the last slide. So really, unless there's any questions, which I'm happy to take, I put two motions to the table. One is to accept the accounts as presented, and the second is to reappoint Assets Audit Services as our auditors for the current year.
Could I just ask one question?
Sure.
Just curious to know what or how the coaching income breaks down as.
I can't give you a breakdown at the moment, but we can certainly provide that after the event, and we can, you know, that we can cover it in more detail at a board meeting. But
just in a rough overview, is it from the provider fees brought in from Canoe Wales affiliated coaches, or is it from Cardiff Whitewater Centre and income from sessions that they run, or from?
No, it's really all coming from provider admin, provider fees.
Right.
So it's the coaching income that feeds through the BC programme.
Okay.
We don't get any income from Cardiff. In fact, we spend money at Cardiff, and the Whitewater Centre income comes through as a separate line. So
Okay.
you didn't see that in the accounts for either of the years, but this year the Whitewater Centre will be contributing £60,000 to the governing body, but that's put in as a separate line in the P&L. But yeah, all the coaching stuff is through the coaching schemes that are operated.
Okay, thanks.
Andy, there was one question that went into the chat. So it relates to the pie charts.
Yeah.
So Tavi was questioning whether the total income in each year is approximately the same. Different percentages can't be compared otherwise. So any comments on that?
Yeah, I think that is a fair comment in so much as the income was £114,000 greater, so it does show the proportion of that. But that actual increase was fairly well balanced in so much as 60,000 of that increase came from grants of various, both the government grant and the sort of lack of a resilience fund. But we got £40,000 from membership, £30,000 from coaching. So in this instance, the proportion of the increase was broadly in line with, as you can see in the pie chart. But we can certainly look at that for next year, for instance. It's probably going to be a lot flatter. So it will give it a fairer comparison, but we can certainly show the cash figures as well if people want to see that in the next year's slides.
Okay, thank you very much. Any other questions for Andy? No, so we just need a proposer and seconder to accept the accounts.
I'll propose it, Kerry.
Errol, thank you.
Yeah, seconded.
Thank you very much, David. So that's brilliant. And the second one was a motion to appoint the auditors.
I'll propose that as well.
Okay, thank you. And the seconder?
Yeah, I'll second that again.
Second.
Sorry, did we get a clear name there? Alistair, did you?
Yeah, I think it was Dave again.
Dave? Fantastic.
Dave,
And I think
yeah,
I'll
correct.
propose, yeah. Okay.
So we've just got to vote on those two as well, Kerry. Just very quickly before we launch the poll, which we're going to use this evening again for a vote. It's only on the water and on the bank members of Canoe Wales who are able to vote. We recognise that using the poll isn't perfect because it's not asking for your membership number. So similar to last year, if we end up with a very close vote within 10%, we'll redo that again following the AGM using a voting platform. So very shortly, you'll see a poll come up on your screen. If you're an on-the-water member or on the bank member, then please pick one of the three options. If you're a club associate or a non-member, then please either abstain or just don't select anything. So yeah, Bonnie, if we can launch the first poll, that'd be great. Oh, not. You with us, Bonnie?
Hang on a second. You technical issues. Me. Alistair, you're able to click launch because they're not showing up for me. Sorry.
Yeah, it's actually saying 2 seconds. Any of the other Canoe Wales team, have they come in as, can they just check if they've come in as Canoe Wales? It's saying that I can't launch the poll because I'm logged in from another device. So if all the staff members can just double check.
That's not me, Alistair. I've come in from a separate account.
Okay. Okay, I think, Kerry, we'll figure that out and maybe we can come back to that.
Well,
it's come up. It's come up. It's just come up.
Okay.
It's a test first off. Is paddling better than working? Somebody's messed up.
Yeah, if you could go to the, sorry, Andy, go to the accounts and finance one, that'd be great. Just launch that one.
There we go.
Looks good.
Fantastic, Andy. I can't actually see the results, so if you could mark those down, that'd be great.
We're about 96% for at the moment.
Great.
Yeah, I think all hosts can now view them.
Yeah, we've got 97% for.
Yeah, that's enough.
Brilliant. Has that done the audit service as well?
Yeah, they were both on the same page.
Great, perfect, brilliant.
Could I thank Andy for all the work he's done for all this, please?
Brilliant, thanks, Errol.
Thanks, Errol. That's noted. Thanks very much.
Great. Back to you, Kerry.
Okay, so next we're moving on to the governance review. So further down on the agenda. So we wanted to give you an overview of the recent Hugh James Canoe Wales governance review and the proposed developments to our governance processes and procedures. So just for those who may not know, Hugh James are a large firm of solicitors with a division focused around effective governance. As I mentioned earlier on, we were delighted that Canoe Wales was able to secure some funding from Sport Wales. So obviously, I'm sure many of you will know that the solicitor's fees are quite expensive, but the fact that Sport Wales covered the cost was really appreciated. And it enabled us to undertake a review of the governance arrangements, which then resulted in them producing a report for our review. So in the review, which was carried out by the Finance, HR and Risk Committee, a number of changes were proposed, which we've shared with you prior to the meeting, together with an action plan which was drawn up by the committee as well. So you can see that on the screen at the moment. And so the motion is to review and agree the proposed changes to Canoe Wales Articles of Association. So we'll take that one first and we'll come on to the other items after that. So if we could have a proposer and seconder, please. First off.
I'll propose it again.
Thanks, Errol.
I'll second that.
Thank you very much. That's Karen Akinci. And could we have the poll on screen, please, for the changes to the articles?
We did have a question on the changes, Kerry, which might be relevant to the voting.
I was going to do them separately, or is the poll? Oh, there's the articles poll.
Do you want to take the question first, Kerry, or do you want to come back to the question?
Okay, so I was just going to mention about the articles. So that comes out with 69% accepted, so that's pretty clear. The second one was to receive an update on the other governance developments following the Hugh James review. So this is around the regulations. And so for that, the papers on that were all issued beforehand as well. So we're looking for a proposer and seconder.
I can propose that.
Thank you very much. And a seconder, please.
I'll second it, Kerry.
Thank you very much. Okay, so the third area that we want to raise with you was about the Director's Handbook. So one of the recommendations that came out of the work that Hugh James did was to recommend that a Director's Handbook be put in place. And again, we circulated that before the meeting, so you've all had an opportunity, hopefully, to have a look at it. So we're looking for a proposal and seconder for the Director's Handbook. And then we can do the poll to close all that off. So could I have a proposal and seconder, please?
I'll propose that one.
Thank you very much.
I'll second that, Kerry.
Thank you very much.
So, sorry, Kerry, just for these two, because these aren't required as part of our articles, we haven't actually got a vote. It was just to update everyone, so everyone's clear on some of the other governance developments. Yeah.
Okay. Okay, so moving on, so that brings the AGM part of the meeting to a conclusion. And so now we've got a really exciting presentation from Llangollen Canoe Club entitled Developing Our Club's Activity to Further Engage Underrepresented Groups. So we're delighted to welcome Mark Owen to speak to us, and he'll be inviting Hannah Veneer to talk to us too. So I shall hand the meeting over to them.
Hello, good evening. Can you hear me?
Yes, I can.
Okay, I'm just sharing my computer audio with you. And we'll bring the presentation up. There. Okay, hello everybody. Welcome to the presentation with myself and Hannah Veneer. Hannah is our She Paddles ambassador with the club. And we're presenting on diversity, what that means within the club. And also chatting with or listening to some of our club members and some video of what they've been up to over the last year. So let's eddy out, excuse the pun. So, okay, so the mission for the club is to be a welcoming and safe area where paddle sports and a sense of adventure is accessible to everybody. So let's break that down. So be welcoming. So you've got people coming to paddle sports for the first time, maybe, so they're going to have be nervous about it. Perhaps they'll also come to a new area where they're meeting new people for the first time. So take the time to get to know them, put them at ease, really important. Next thing is safe area. So obviously keep them physically safe, but also where they feel safe to express themselves, so they can be who they want to be the person they want to be when they're meeting all these new people. Sense of adventure, that's what we all want, isn't it? To feel alive. And remember that for some people, a small rapid to us might be a waterfall to them, it might be a huge achievement. And of course, accessible to everybody, that's what it means, just accessible to everybody. One way to do that is to have a range of activities, different paddle disciplines, and set for different levels, so it's achievable for everybody. Right, so we're going to move on to membership and diversity. So the club is built upon a combined strength of the club members working, playing, and being together. So the growth of the club, I think it's happened with a lot of clubs after the lockdowns. A lot of people looking for new activities, new experiences for families and individuals. And so they might be going to clubs to look for that. When they do that, it's important to remember that when they come along, the members feel represented and they've got a voice. So we're going to look at equality, diversion, and diversity. So Canoe Wales have got equality and diversity statement on their website. We're not going to go into that too much. Everything's presented there for you to see. We're going to look at e-learning. That's not learning from Yorkshire. That's e-learning online with British Canoeing. So they've developed a module. And with that, you can log on. It takes you through a program. And to begin with, we're going to look at a glossary of terms because, as you may or may not know, there's a lot of new terms these days. So we'll take a quick look at them. So these are terms you may have heard, but not be totally clear on the definitions. So we've got accessible, we've talked about, disability, we might know, and gender, harassment, we might know. Some new ones, neurodivergent, or gender non-conforming, or non-binary. We may have heard of these, but do we actually know what they mean? Diversity, gender reassignment. So on the British Canoeing website, there's a short module on there. It can take about half an hour, I think, to go through that. And here's a breakdown of what's on there. 5 minutes on equality, diversity, and inclusion. Second one, understanding the individual. Oh, it's changed there. Let's bring it back. Understanding the individual. Bullying, harassment, discrimination, and creating an inclusive environment. All those things important to everybody. Everybody to understand what people might be feeling and experiencing when they come into the club and how to deal with different situations. That's also a module you get points for as well, professional development points. So diversity, definitions. So definitions give us a common understanding of language, and the diversity from the website there, I'll just read it out. Diversity describes the difference in characteristics within a group of people. It's important to remember that individuals are not diverse. Diversity refers to differences within a group. In a group of people who share the same characteristics, e.g. they share ethnicity, there will likely be still diversity within the group. Interestingly enough, a lot of the research might talk about diversity across groups, but there's also interesting, compelling research to say there's just as much diversity within a group. You're likely to have as many diverse characteristics between the people who may look the same as you, or have the same religion as you, or the same ethnicity as you. There's plenty of diversity there. One thing I would say is think for yourself, what does diversity mean? So that is to say, if we all have the same view of what diversity is that diverse? So definitely think for yourself about what all these terms might mean to you. Okay, so moving on. So at the club, we focus on all those things we talked about, but we also look at the individual. So don't presume that you know a person, or they can be defined by the group that you think they belong to. So things like race, ethnicity, gender, age. Meet the individual. So when you talk to someone with their own experiences, the life that they've lived, and their way of looking at the world. Each person brings perspectives, and it has a range of unique perspectives that brings a community, in this case our club, its strength. So diversity of thinking. I think that's where the key is, diversity of thinking. So we're going to listen now to our club welfare officer, Johnny Porter, and he's going to be talking about his role within the club as welfare officer. And I thought we'd do it while we enjoy a nice whitewater raft ride down the Dee.
There's two sides to the welfare officer role. The first side of it is the kind of the legal aspect and the paperwork side, making sure everyone has their DBS checks, they've done the relevant training, and making sure that our leaders are correctly qualified to lead a group of people on the river or in the pool. The other side of it, which is if not more important or just as important, is making sure our paddlers feel safe, ultimately enjoying having fun when they're coming to our events, and making sure that when they come they feel safe and that they feel free and open, that if they want to talk to anyone that they can do that.
Okay, that wasn't a raft ride, that was canoeing, but we still went down the Dee, and nice to hear Johnny there explaining his role. So next, listening to and representing our members, because that's what it's all about. So club member views. This is from Oshan Williams, so I asked him if he had anything on his mind that he'd like to share that was important to him about what he'd like to see from his club and from Canoe Wales. So this will be the raft ride with Oshan Williams speaking.
So I would probably mention bilingual in all adverts and things like that, that would probably attract people to think, oh, there's Welsh speakers in there. So there's new people I met in the club, and after a couple of weeks got to understand that they speak Welsh as well. So now, like Mabon, I'm speaking fluent in Welsh. Johnny, one of the guys that's teaching, he also is learning Welsh, so it's great to be able to practice some Welsh with him. Yeah, so if a lot more bilingual maybe in the advertisements and the appeal to the club would be probably more Welsh people would be drawn to it if it was bilingual in the advertisements of that, which is sometimes difficult, but it would probably draw more people. But otherwise, no, the club, there's a few members in the club that can speak Welsh and do speak Welsh. So yeah, it's very good.
Okay, from here we're going to move to the She Paddles initiative, which we've heard about before. And to present this, we've got Hannah Vernier. So I am going to stop my screen share.
Thank you. I'll just share my screen with you now. Can't get this out of the way. Okay, so Alistair already mentioned that we were one of the first She Paddles Cymru champion clubs as part of their trial, and they've now rolled this out throughout Wales. But as part of that, I'll start with the headline figure that through this initiative, the female membership in our club has increased from 21% to 43%, which is brilliant. We weren't expecting this. It's only been 6 months, and our champion club status did coincide with the festival, the She Paddles Cymru Festival, so it's a bit intertwined, but I think that's just a brilliant increase. So some of the things we did was to, let me just move this on, was to run sort of female specific events through the club. So a lot of these were just, you know, like meet and greet pub sessions so that potential new members could come and chat to us and find out what it was all about. We did a women's sort of paddle social evening, which was Lowry Davis's idea, and we paid coaches, we paid Lowry to do some kayak confidence, and Katie Simmons, one of our She Paddles ambassadors, to do SUP safety, specifically to address some of the issues that that Alistair mentioned with the supping. But some of the most popular sessions were kayak confidence sessions, which I've found personally and through speaking to other women is a major issue in retaining women in paddle sports. So I personally have sort of quit twice because of confidence issues. So this session here in these pictures was organised mostly by one of our newest members, and it was coached by Lisa Dickinson, who was one of the British Canoeing She Paddles ambassadors, and it sold out within minutes of me posting up the advert. So they're really, really popular. One of the big success stories has been that we've now got a female competitive rafting team, and this was largely driven by our vice captain for rafting, Dan, and our coach Steve, who you can see in both of those pictures there, who ran sort of female only rafting sessions to try and get people to try it out. And they're also now coaching and training the team on the canal and on the river when the conditions allow. So I think that's brilliant, and I've been out with this group, and it's just a really nice group of people, and I think that's what we find throughout paddling, isn't it? But it's sort of just trying to get people involved so that they can see what a nice group of people paddlers are, really. And then aside from the female only sessions, there are sessions that have been run by the club that have been particularly popular with women, like the flatwater canoeing on the canals, and many of the women who have been who started canoeing this year are well on their way to training for leadership qualifications, which I think is great. And I could talk for a long time about this. We haven't got very long, so I'm going to pass back over to Mark. But if anyone wants to chat about this further, if they want to, you know, look into doing She Paddles within their club, then I'm happy to talk to you about what we've been doing. So I'll stop sharing there, Mark, and I'll pass back over to you.
Okay, brilliant. Thank you, Hannah. So I'm sharing now. I'm going to put that on. Okay, is that on screen now?
Yes.
Yep. Okay, thank you. Okay, so having covered that, we're going to look at paddling activities and events. So we've had a really busy summer. Let's just go back. It's jumping around. Really busy summer, lots of new members joining. And we've developed, well, we started paddleboarding sessions with them, certainly developed the canoeing elements and the whitewater rafting, which you saw earlier. And also been doing quite a bit with safety and rescue training, as well as the 2-day course where they're certified. We did a 1-day special event, bespoke event alongside TNR, where people could just, well, dip their toes in the water. They did rather more than that, but it was a 1-day event rather than 2 days, which could be quite overwhelming for some. So we're going to move on now to the pool sessions, which is great for accessibility. And you're going to hear some interviews we did the other week with people who are attending the pool sessions and what it means to them to have a full session in the winter. And there we go.
Oh, it's amazing bringing the kids down to the pool in the boats. It gives them the opportunity to try out more paddling in the warmth and comfort of a nice, safe, warm environment. Their confidence has been boosted massively over the last couple of sessions. They've come on leaps and bounds. Both the girls are now really confident in the water, not worried about falling in. If they do, it's lovely and warm.
Yeah, first time in the pool, as you say, fantastic. Just to have a bit of a safe environment to mess around in. Well, you know, mess around to a point. You know, Megan was able to do some capsizing. I was able to try some more rolling bits, get some guidance. Yeah, fantastic, basically, and great to have the waves at the end.
It's absolutely fantastic. It's a safe environment. The coaches are great, and it just allows me to make mistakes in a safe environment. So it's been absolutely fantastic. I've loved it.
Last year on the pool sessions was the first time I met yourself and a lot of the others, made good friends, and also met some new people tonight as well. It's nice to see new people coming through. It's nice to see the old people coming back here again and sharing what they know and their experiences with new people coming through.
Okay, that was great to see. And we're going to get straight from the pool and we're going to jump into the river with kayakers from this summer's sessions, Monday evening sessions or club nights. Here we go.
So we started with the club sort of 5-6 months ago now, and she's been able to do some white water on the D there at Llangollen, and that's just given us the confidence to go out together and do something together, and we've took that on and done lots of things with it really. It's been good to do stuff together.
So yeah, because I'd had some paddling experience, but just not on moving rivers or on white water. I would say just give it a go. What have you got to lose? I mean, it's just everybody takes you through it step by step.
You seem to learn a lot quicker, I think, on the river because it's a lot more dynamic. It's a bigger environment, and even though I was a bit more apprehensive going to the river, as soon as I was on there, yeah, I absolutely loved it.
I was really surprised at how relaxed and easy it was, and in a way quite self-directive. It was like there was a choice, where do I fit? You know, I contacted you and we had the conversation, and I found my place quite easily. River trips with club members, the pier paddling is really good fun. So it's like there's a comradeship, you know, that it's actually we're all equal.
That's great. That's nice to see. Reminds me of the summer. And finally, future plans for the club. So we've got a lot of plans, but we're just going to go through 3 of them here. So more and continued training for development of leaders and coaches in all disciplines. We all know if we're involved with clubs, having coaches and leaders to take the members out is really important. So we need to keep that cycle each year, developing that. Working with more hard to reach young people in collaboration with youth services to introduce them to paddle sports. That's something we were hoping to do this year, to contact the youth centres and take a group of the members there out. And we were so busy with club members, new club members coming along. We wanted to do a good job with the youth centres, so we're going to put that on to next year. That's our project for next year, which we're looking forward to. And then it's been mentioned earlier with other people, we're going to develop the paddleboard element of the club. That seems a really accessible way for people to get into paddle sports. So that's 3 of our plans for the next 12 months. And what we realised, it's a constant evolution. And that concludes our presentation. Thank you very much, everybody.
Well, that was fantastic. Thanks very much. Really good, and good to get people's individual opinions and to hear them sort of expressing how much they'd enjoyed it. It's what it's all about, really, isn't it?
Yeah, that's right. Yeah.
So thanks to yourself and also to Hannah for all your presentations.
Yeah, brilliant. Thanks, Hannah.
Yeah, it was good. Any questions from anyone on the presentation?
I'd just like to congratulate them for all the work they've done, to be honest. I mean, it's you know, we all know how much fun it is being volunteers and where all your time disappears to, but to get that much done is really good, most impressive. I'm sure many other clubs are doing just as much. So it'd be good to get, you know, another club next year to let us know what they're doing.
No, it's good. Thanks, Andy.
Great work, Llangollen. Well done.
Thank you. Any other comments or questions? Brill. So thanks very much, Marco and Hannah, for that. It was really good. We're just coming towards the end now. Are there any specific questions anybody wants to raise to any of the board members?
We have a raised hand.
Yes, we do. Adam, please.
Yeah, hi, Kerry and rest of those of you Canoe Wales. I'm Adam Harmer. If you don't know me, I'm the chair of the Leadership, Safety and Coaching Subcommittee, and want to welcome my thanks to the board. I also want to sort of welcome the unsung heroes on the screen. Val, you're an absolute legend, and we really appreciate all your hard work. And also to Andy and Pete, who I don't think is on the call. But the reason I want to raise a question here is I noticed that Ruth Hall, who's sadly not on the call, but is the CEO of Canoe Wales, CEO of Plaza Brennan. She obviously being part of Canoe Wales now, I'd like to raise a question I've been asked by lots of volunteer coaches about the access to the Cligwing. I raised this with Alistair the other day and he knows this is coming, but lots of volunteer coaches and clubs want to see the free access reinstated to the track behind Plaza Brennan so that youths and youngsters can get started both on the lake but also on the lake, on the river system there down to Jummins Bridge. And I just don't know what Canoe Wales's policy is with access at the moment. But it seems to me it's an easy win that should be reinstated for free, because it's £300 a year, which is prohibitively expensive for volunteer coaches.
Could I ask Alistair to field that question, please?
Yeah, so we've had a chat about it, and yeah, I think Adam knows my views already. I mean, I've got an action from previous subcommittee meeting to have a chat with Ruth, and just to ensure that we can do what possible to represent the club's needs. But I think something we can communicate in this call is we sense a sort of wider opportunity that again I communicated within the subcommittee, that what we've heard from this call is a sort of general challenge within clubs is the numbers of coaches and leaders, and at the same time, that we know that centres, particularly Plaza Menai, Plaza Brennan, the other big centres, are in challenging times. They're seeing costs escalating, but they're also seeing increasing competition from people working out of a van or just more remotely. So what Lydia and our development participation subcommittee have been working on is a Club v Hub proposal, where we effectively link up clubs to hubs, so it would be similar to Plaza Brennan, and we come up with MOUs or relationships between the two where they can lean on each other and work collaboratively together. So we sense this as an opportunity to trial that concept, and I'm sure Ruth and Plaza Brennan more generally would be really positive about that.
Cool, yeah, thank you. Cheers.
Thank you. Any other questions anybody wants to raise? Now you've got the chance. So yes, we have one. Chris?
Yeah, good evening. Thank you for taking the time. I just wanted to follow up on Adam there because I'm a little bit behind the story there. But is the gist that the subsidised national centre has taken away access to a place that we've used for a long time, and that person resides on the board? Am I just understanding that situation correctly?
Yeah, I mean that's basically what Adam said. I mean, clearly, you know, within the board, we're looking from all sorts of skills and experiences, and you know, from Ruth being a member of board, albeit co-opted at the time, that increases the opportunity for us to ensure that she's aware of some of these challenges and she can work within Plaza Brennan to break down some of those barriers. So yeah, absolutely.
Any other questions? No. Okay, well, thanks very much to everybody for coming along today and giving your time. We've really enjoyed talking to you and giving you an update on things that have happened during the year and where we're at the moment. But your support means a lot, so thanks very much for coming along, and it's been great to see you. Thanks.